My record for my weekly Wise picks is 20-10. Want to improve on that. So let's get right to these NFL weekly Wise picks. It's NFL Week 5. Let's get to it. We got the Detroit Lions traveling to New England to take on Bill Belichick and the Patriots. The Patriots are favored by 3 points. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff in New England. The over-under for this matchup is 45.5. Lions are fresh off of a loss to the Seattle Seahawks. High-scoring affair, 48-45. One thing about the Detroit Lions, they give up a lot of points and they score a lot of points. And so far this season, believe it or not, Jared Goff has been impressive for the Detroit Lions. On the season, Jared Goff, he has 1,126 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions for Jared Goff. So Jared Goff, I'm not going to call him an elite quarterback, but so far this season, dare I say Jared Goff should be in the MVP conversation? Can't believe I'm saying it. That's how impressive Jared Goff has been. For the Patriots, they're going to be starting their third-string quarterback, Bailey Zappi. Mac Jones is still out with an ankle injury. Brian Hoyer is out with a concussion. So Zappi's going to get the start for the Patriots. I expect the Lions to handle business in Foxborough. I'm going to roll with Jared Goff to beat Bailey Zappi. I'll go Lions 31, Patriots 24. So I expect the game to be competitive, but I think Jared Goff will outlast Bailey Zappi. Lions 31, Patriots 24. Let's go to Buffalo. The Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling to Buffalo to take on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are favored by 14 points in this game. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. The over-under for this game is 46.5. Kenny Pickett will get his first career start in the NFL. And I believe that the Bills have a significant advantage at the quarterback position in this matchup. So I believe the Bills will blow out the Steelers. The Steelers' offense isn't very good. I love their skill position players in Claypool, in Pickens. So I like their skill position players, but I don't believe it's going to be enough to keep pace with the Buffalo Bills' elite offense led by Josh Allen. So I'm going to roll with the Bills to blow out Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. I'll go Bills 34, Steelers 13. Moving on to a matchup in the Meadowlands. It's the Miami Dolphins, favored by 3 points, traveling to New York to take on the New York Jets. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff in New York for this game. The over-under for this game is 46. Teddy Bridgewater gets the start for the Miami Dolphins. And the Jets actually had an impressive Week 4 win over the Steelers, a game where they trailed early in that game, and they came back in the second half, and they outlasted Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think the Jets are going to go down this week. I think the Miami Dolphins are a better football team than the New York Jets are. And I think the Dolphins need this win for a division win in the AFC East. I'm rolling with the Dolphins to beat the Jets. I'll go 20-10. Falcons at Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are favored by 8.5 points in this matchup in Tampa Bay. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. The over-under for this game is 48 points. The Buccaneers are a more complete football team than the Falcons are. So I'm rolling with the Bucs to beat the Falcons. I'll go Bucs 27, Falcons 13. Moving on to the Seattle Seahawks traveling to the Big Easy in New Orleans to take on the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are favored by 5.5 points. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff in New Orleans. The over-under for this game is 46 points. And I believe so far this season, the Saints have been one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL. So I'm going to roll with Geno Smith beating the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans 24-17. So I got the Seahawks upsetting the Saints in New Orleans 24-17. And that is my upset pick for week 5. Go ahead and mark it down, ladies and gentlemen. Seahawks 24, Saints 17. Geno Smith has been impressive in the first 4 weeks of the season. For the season, Geno Smith got 1,037 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's a career year for Geno Smith. I think the Seahawks outlast the Saints in New Orleans. That's my upset pick of the week. Texans at Jaguars. It's an AFC South battle in Jacksonville. The Jaguars are favored by 7 points in this game. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff in Jacksonville. The over-under for this game is 44 points. David Mills versus Trevor Lawrence. I'm rolling with Trevor Lawrence to beat David Mills. I'll go Jaguars 27, Texans 17. Titans are traveling to Washington to take on Carson Wentz and the Washington Commanders. The Titans are favored by 2.5 points. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff in Washington. The over-under for this game is 43 points. I don't believe in Carson Wentz. I don't think he's very good. I actually believe that Ryan Tannehill is slightly better than Carson Wentz. And I believe Derrick Henry is the best player on the field Sunday in Washington. I'm rolling with the Titans to beat the Commanders. I'll go Titans 20, Commanders 17. I don't believe in either one of these teams. I don't think neither one of these teams are playoff teams in their respective conferences. But I got the Titans beating the Commanders 20-7. NFC North battle in Minnesota. Bears at Vikings. Justin Fields versus Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is favored by 7 points. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff in Minnesota. The over-under for this game is 44 points. I expect the Vikings offense to take care of business against that Bears defense. I expect Justin Jefferson to have a great performance in this game. I'm rolling with the Vikings to beat the Bears. I'll go Vikings 31, Bears 17. Chargers at Browns in Cleveland. Chargers are favored by 2.5 points. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff in Cleveland. The over-under for this game is 47.5. Once Deshaun Watson, his suspension was announced, I said that this would be one of the games that the Browns would miss Deshaun Watson because you need Deshaun Watson to match up with Justin Herbert. So I don't think the Browns have a chance to win this game. I'm going to roll with the Chargers to beat the Browns in Cleveland. I'll go Chargers 24, Browns 14. 49ers favored by 6.5 in Carolina against the Panthers. It's a 4:05 kickoff in Carolina. The over-under for this game is 39 points. Jimmy Garoppolo versus Baker Mayfield. 2 game managers, but Jimmy Garoppolo plays for the better football team. I believe the 49ers cover the spread and blow out the Panthers. And I think we're going to hear some boos in Carolina because Panthers fans are going to be upset with their team falling to 1-4 on the season and Baker Mayfield having another disappointing performance because this 49ers defense is elite, led by D'Amico Ryan. That's the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. They got Nick Bosa. They got Fred Warner. They got Arik Armstead on that side of the ball. I think the 49ers take care of business against the Panthers. I'm going to roll with the 49ers to beat the Panthers. I'll go 27-10. Now, let's transition to an NFC battle in LA. It's the Dallas Cowboys and LA Rams. The Rams are favored by 5 points in this matchup. It's a 4:25 kickoff in LA. The over-under for this game is 43 points. So we got Cooper Rush versus Matthew Stafford. This matchup is actually interesting because when Dak Prescott injured his finger in week 1, when I looked at the schedule for the Cowboys, I said that this would be one of the games that the Cowboys would for sure lose because I didn't believe that Cooper Rush would be able to handle the responsibilities as being the number 1 quarterback on the roster because now opposing defenses, they have opportunities to put together a game plan to slow down Cooper Rush. And I said that with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and that decent Rams defense with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, I said that the Cowboys would lose to the Rams. But I was wrong. I was wrong about that game being a lock for the Rams to beat the Cowboys. I was wrong about it being a lock because it is not a lock. I know Vegas has it at 5 points, but this is a game the Rams could lose. You look at Cooper Rush so far this season. He has 737 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's completed 61% of his passes. And the Cowboys, they got wins over the Bengals, over the Giants, over the Commanders in this 3-game stretch under Cooper Rush. So Cooper Rush, as a starting quarterback in the NFL, he's 4-0. What a luxury is it to have for the Dallas Cowboys organization to have a reliable backup quarterback in Cooper Rush. I said when Dak Prescott injured his finger, I said there's no chance in hell at the Cowboys being a playoff team and being a contender in the NFC East and the NFC overall. I said, looking at their schedule, that they would lose to the Rams, Eagles, Lions, and Packers and Vikings before Dak Prescott returns back to the field. We're not sure when he's going to return back to the field. It's kind of funny how the first week after Dak Prescott got injured, we heard Jerry Jones say that it was a possibility that Dak Prescott could come back in week 5 or week 6 and play. We heard that from Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones literally said that maybe Dak Prescott could come back in week 5 or week 6. Now that Cooper Rush has put together a few games of solid performances and the Cowboys are 3-0 under Cooper Rush, all of a sudden, Dak Prescott can't grip a football. Ain't it kind of ironic how Jerry Jones, his tune has changed? Dak Prescott can't grip a football all of a sudden. So we won't see Dak Prescott for a while. And the longer Cooper Rush continues to play at a high level, that gives Dak Prescott longer time to rehab and try to come back close to being 100%. But here's the thing. As great as Cooper Rush has played, in those games, he went up against the Bengals, Giants, and Commanders. So this will be the biggest test for Cooper Rush in his young career as a quarterback. He's going to be looking at Aaron Donald across from him, Jalen Ramsey across the field from him. So this is going to be the biggest test of Cooper Rush's young career. So we're going to see what the Cowboys got. I believe in order for the Cowboys to have a chance at winning this game, they're going to have to run the football with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. That can help Cooper Rush relax and calm down in the early stages of this game. If the Cowboys are trailing in the first quarter, they're down 10 or 14 points in this game, I don't think that's going to be a recipe for success for this Cowboys team to win this game. I think they have to stay ahead on the scoreboard. And even if they're trailing in this game, they can't go down more than 7 points. If they go down 10 or 14 points, I can't see Cooper Rush being able to come back in this football game with the likes of Aaron Donald rushing Cooper Rush and trying to come away with a sack. So it's going to be key for the Cowboys to stay on schedule, try to stay ahead of the chains, and stay ahead on the scoreboard overall. But this Rams offense hasn't been very good so far this season. In week 1, they only put up 10 points against the Bills. Week 2, they did put up 31 points, but it was against the Falcons. Give me a break. Week 3, they scored only 20 points against the Arizona Cardinals. And that Arizona Cardinals defense is not an elite defense. And in week 4, the Rams offense didn't even score 10 points. Now, offensively for the Rams, Sean McVay, can you figure out a way to scheme open Allen Robinson? That's been the biggest issue so far for the LA Rams. They have been so dependent on Cooper Kupp that they have forgot about Allen Robinson. So far this season, Allen Robinson has only 9 receptions for 95 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. What in the hell was the point in signing Allen Robinson if you're not going to scheme him open, Sean McVay? It makes 0 sense what's going on right now with the LA Rams. They rely on Cooper Kupp way too much. And I know Cooper Kupp has a great relationship with Matthew Stafford, but you got to figure out a way to get Allen Robinson the football. They are a one-dimensional football team. Cam Akers is a shell of himself. He hasn't been the same since his injury. So that's the biggest issue for the LA Rams offensively right now. And look at Matthew Stafford. This is Matthew Stafford in the 2 losses for the Rams this season. He only has 1 touchdown. He has 5 total turnovers. 4 of those 5 turnovers are interceptions. He's been sacked 14 times. So that Rams offensive line, they can't protect Matthew Stafford. They can't scheme open Allen Robinson. And they can't run the football because they're one-dimensional as a football team. This is Matthew Stafford this season when targeting receivers. He's targeted Cooper Kupp 54 times compared to other receivers 41 times. He's completed 78% of his passes to Cooper Kupp compared to 63% of his passes to other receivers. He has 402 passing yards to Cooper Kupp, only 278 passing yards to other Rams receivers. Cooper Kupp has 3 touchdowns other Rams receivers only have one touchdown on the season. So the Rams offensively, they have to do a better job at getting others involved in the offense. I don't understand what was the point in signing Allen Robinson if you're not going to utilize him in your offense, Sean McVay. You still got Ben Skowronek at receiver as well. At tight end, you got Tyler Higbee, a reliable tight end in your passing game. You got Kendall Blanton as well. So as the season goes along, this Rams offense has to improve. They have to improve. They cannot be one-dimensional and expect to be a contender in the NFC. You got teams like the Packers with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, the Buccaneers with Leonard Fournette and their rushing attack. You got those other teams who have multiple ways to score points, not just in the passing game. So that's the biggest issue right now for the LA Rams overall and Sean McVay. So this game is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see the matchup between Cooper Kupp and Trevon Diggs. I think that's going to be a key in this game. I know that Mike McCarthy and that Cowboys defense, they're going to match up Trevon Diggs on Cooper Kupp multiple times in this game. So that's going to be key. We know Cooper Kupp is arguably the best receiver in the NFL. And so far this season, Cooper Kupp, he's been pretty good. He has 42 receptions, 402 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp is one of the best receivers in the NFL. Remember, this is fresh off a season where Cooper Kupp, he won a Triple Crown. He had 1,947 receiving yards, 145 receptions, 16 touchdowns. So I believe that Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the NFL, but Cooper Kupp was the best receiver in 2021. So that matchup between Cooper Kupp and Trevon Diggs is going to be key. When it comes to X factors in this game, I think an X factor is going to be Cam Akers, because the Rams have been so one-dimensional that if Cam Akers can have a breakout performance, maybe the Rams can play complementary football and they don't have to rely on Matthew Stafford to drop back the pass over 40 times in this game. Again, I said it earlier. Cam Akers, since he's been back from his injury, he has not been the same running back that he was before. For the season, Cam Akers has 38 carries, 118 rushing yards. He's averaging over 3 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. I got him on my fantasy team, and boy, am I regretting drafting Cam Akers, because he hasn't done much this year. He hasn't done much. I had high expectations for Cam Akers, and he hasn't done much. He's having a down season so far for the LA Rams. So it's on the offensive line. It's on Sean McVay to figure out a way to implement a game plan that will feature Cam Akers so this offense won't be one-dimensional. Now, when it comes to who wins this football game, I believe that the Rams will have a bounce-back performance in this game. I believe Cooper Kupp will come back to earth and play like a true backup quarterback. I expect the Rams defensively to frustrate Cooper Rush. I want to see Aaron Donald put on a great performance like he did in the Super Bowl. I'm rolling with the Rams to beat the Cowboys at SoFi Stadium. I'll go Rams 24, Cowboys 21. I think it's going to be close, but I think the Rams outlast the Cowboys at SoFi Stadium. So I got the Rams being so fly at SoFi Sunday afternoon in LA. Let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are undefeated, 4-0 on the season. They are traveling to the West Coast to take on Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. It's a 4:25 kickoff in Arizona. The Eagles are favored by 5.5 points in this game. The over-under for this game is 48.5 points. I don't have high expectations for the Arizona Cardinals. I think their offense is honestly hard to watch at times because it's almost as if they're playing street ball with Kyler Murray. Like, I don't see no flow or no rhythm in that Cardinals offense. And it's like they drop Kyler Murray back to pass. And whenever his first read isn't open, it's okay, just get open. Just figure out a way to get open. Let Kyler Murray make plays with his athleticism and try to scramble and make plays in the open field on plays that break down. I see no flow in this Arizona Cardinals offense. Now, maybe it's because they don't have DeAndre Hopkins, who is currently suspended. He's going to return back to the field in week 7. Maybe he can help this Cardinals offense out. But again, coming into the season, I didn't have the Cardinals as a playoff team. I think the Eagles are by far the better football team. But I do believe it's going to be a high-scoring affair in Arizona Sunday afternoon. But I'm rolling with Jalen Hurts to outperform Kyler Murray. I'll go Jalen Hurts 35, Kyler Murray 24. Let's transition to an AFC North battle. Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. The Ravens are favored by 3 points in this game. It's an 8:20 kickoff on Sunday Night Football. The over-under for this game is 48. So I've been thinking about this matchup all week long. And I want to talk about the Bengals first because Bengal fans, they were upset with me because after they beat the Miami Dolphins last week, on Friday, in the immediate aftermath of that win, I made a post on Facebook and I said that Bengal fans shouldn't be celebrating because if you consider the caliber of quarterbacks that they've played against so far this season, the Bengals honestly should be 4-0. Let me name the quarterbacks that the Bengals have went up against so far this season. Mitchell Trubisky, Cooper Rush, Joe Flacco, Tua Tagovailoa, and Teddy Bridgewater. Those are the quarterbacks that the Cincinnati Bengals have played against so far this season. So I'm hearing Bengal fans brag about the win over the Miami Dolphins. They beat the Jets in week 3. They beat the Dolphins in week 4. And I'm hearing Bengal fans talk about how elite their defense is. And I'm like, who in the hell have the Bengals went up against that's considered an elite quarterback? Lamar Jackson is going to be the first elite quarterback that the Bengals have played against so far this season. But forget about elite. He's the first good quarterback that they faced so far this season. Everybody else is mediocre. Tua Tagovailoa is a mediocre quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is a backup. And even when he was a starter in the NFL, when he was starting, he was a backup. Mitchell Trubisky, he's awful. He's not even a starter no more in the NFL. Joe Flacco is past his prime. His best days are behind him. So this is going to be a true test for Lou Admiral, the defensive coordinator for the Bengals. This is going to be a true test as to whether or not this Bengals defense is elite. I love the personnel that the Bengals defense have. They got Logan Wilson, who I believe is one of the more underrated linebackers in the NFL. They got Trey Henderson up front as a nice pass rusher. They did lose DJ Reader on that defensive line, but they still got BJ Hill. They got Sam Hubbard as a nice pass rusher as well. And then, even besides Logan Wilson at linebacker, you got Jermaine Pratt. You got Clay Johnston as well as a backup linebacker. And I don't like their secondary. I always said that Eli Apple is suspect to me. But I do like Awazuki, the other cornerback, in their defensive backfield. And I love their safeties. I love Jesse Bates and Von Bell. And even their backup, Dax Hill. He's a nice free safety to have as a backup. We know the Bengals don't like to play. They don't like to pay players. So it's a great chance that Dax Hill is going to be the starter for the Bengals next season. They're not going to pay Jesse Bates. He can give it up now. They're not going to pay Jesse Bates. He's not going to get the money that he's going to demand. So they're going to have Dax Hill in their secondary, and I think he can do a great job. I really, really do. But again, this is the biggest test for the Bengals defense this year against Lamar Jackson and this elite Ravens offense. The Ravens have one of the best offenses in the NFL, and they lead in a lot of major statistical categories offensively overall. Obviously, they got Lamar Jackson. They got J.K. Dobbins as well as a receiver. So I like this Ravens offense, and I believe this Ravens offense can put up some points on that Bengals defense. They got a nice tight end in Andrews as well. Mark Andrews is a solid tight end in the NFL. He's not on the level like a George Kittle or a Darren Waller or Travis Kelce, but I believe Andrews can hold his own, and he's a reliable target for Lamar Jackson, especially in the red zone. So that Ravens offense versus that Bengals defense, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Ravens offense. But when we switch gears and go to the Bengals offense versus that Ravens defense, I believe the Bengals have the advantage significantly because I'm looking at the Bengals receivers. They got Jamar Chase. They got T. Higgins. They got Tyler Boyd. And they're going to go up against Marcus Williams, Chuck Clark, Marcus Peters, and Marlon Humphrey. That's the Ravens secondary that's been one of the worst units in the NFL. They've been one of the worst units in the NFL. They gave up a 21-point lead to the Dolphins in week 2. They gave up a 17-point lead to the Bills in week 4. So this Ravens defense is one of the worst defenses we have in the NFL. And I think this is a bad matchup for the Ravens because the strength of the Bengals is their elite receiving core. And they have Joe Burrow throwing the football. And despite his early season struggles, Joe Burrow over the last few weeks has come along. In week 4 against the Dolphins, Joe Burrow, he goes 20 of 31. He throws for 287 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. And then in week 3 against the Jets, Joe Burrow, he goes 23 of 36, 275 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. If my math is correctly, he's thrown for 560 passing yards and 5 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. So despite his early season struggles, Joe Burrow is starting to get into a rhythm. Now, the one thing for the Bengals, they have given up so far this season, they've given up over 15 sacks. And that was supposed to be the strength of their team this year. They brought in Ted Karras. They brought in Lyle Collins. They brought in Alex Kappa. And that was supposed to help their offensive line protect Joe Burrow, because last year, Joe Burrow got sacked a league high 51 times last year. And so that was the weakness of the Bengals offense, was their offensive line. So Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow, they expected Ford Burrow to be protected more this season. And it hasn't been the case so far this year. Now, they did do a great job against a pretty good, solid front seven in the Miami Dolphins in their Week 4 win. They only gave up 1 sack in that game. So, the Bengals offense, slowly but surely, that offensive line is starting to do a better job as the season is going along. And if Joe Burrow can get any type of protection, these elite weapons that the Bengals have in Chase, in Higgins, in Boyd, the sky is the limit for this Bengals offense. The sky is the limit. The only issue for the Bengals this year has been their inability to run the football with Joe Mixon. Now, for the season, Joe Mixon, he has 82 carries, 224 rushing yards, only 1 touchdown. He's averaging 2.7 yards per carry. So Joe Mixon has been a non-factor in the early stages of the season for the Bengals. I expect Joe Mixon to have a better performance in this game against this Ravens defense. It hasn't happened so far this season, but I expect him to have a solid performance against this Ravens defense, and maybe this could get Joe Mixon into a rhythm, and the Bengals rushing attack can improve as we get towards the middle of the season. I think it's going to be key as we get towards the middle of the season and the climate changes, especially here in Cincinnati, and it gets more colder, and you can't throw the ball 40 times per game. I think it's going to be important for the Bengals offensive line to establish the rushing attack with Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon, at his best, is still an elite running back. I hear Bengal fans talking about that Joe Mixon is cooked and he's no longer the same player that he once was. I disagree wholeheartedly. I still think Joe Mixon is one of the premier backs that we have in the NFL, and I expect Joe Mixon to have his best game of the season in this matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. So I think this will be the game for Mixon to get back on the right track. And if the Bengals can run the football in this game, it's lights out for the Baltimore Ravens. They have no chance in hell at being able to beat the Cincinnati Bengals if they don't stop Joe Mixon. And, you know, that's going to be key. But for me, the key matchup is Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd versus Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphreys. And that's going to be the key for this game. That's going to be key to see who wins this matchup. Those Bengals receivers versus the Ravens secondary. And that is a strength for the Bengals and a weakness for the Baltimore Ravens. And that is why I'm going to roll with the Cincinnati Bengals to roll into Baltimore and beat Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. I'm rolling with the Bengals to beat the Ravens 24-17. So I got Burrow beating Lamar Jackson 24-17 in Baltimore, and the Bengals moving up in the AFC North standings and being the number one team in the AFC North at 3-2. So yes, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are going to lose their second consecutive game. And I think the Bengals are going to take care of business because the Bengals' strength is their receiving core and the Ravens' weakness is their secondary. And I think that Bengals receiving core is going to expose that Ravens secondary. They've been awful this year. And Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, they need to take a trip to Baltimore. They got to go take a trip to Baltimore and talk to that Ravens defense. Because so far this season, they've been completely awful. I mean, they have been god awful. And I don't want to, again, make too much of it, but they are the sole reason why Lamar Jackson is not the leader in the NFL MVP conversation. And they're the reasons why the Baltimore Ravens are not 4-0. The Ravens should be 4-0 because offensively, the Ravens haven't scored less than 20 points this year. They haven't scored less than 20 points so far this year. So they should be 4-0. But 2 second half meltdowns by this Ravens defense has them at 2-2. They gave up a 21-point lead to the Miami Dolphins in week 2, and they gave up a 17-point lead to the Buffalo Bills in week 4. So they don't know how to close games. They struggle with closing games. So we'll see what happens. I got Bengals 24, Ravens 17. Let's transition to a matchup in London. We got the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are favored by 7.5 points. It's a 9:30 a.m. kickoff here in the United States. The over-under for this matchup is 41. I said on last week's show that I don't believe in the New York Giants. The Giants are 3-1, but their 3 wins have came against the Titans, the Bears, and the Panthers. Titans, Bears, Panthers. Those are the 3 wins that the New York Giants have so far this season. So I'm not impressed with this Giants team being 3-1. Now, I am impressed with Saquon Barkley and him revitalizing his career. So far this season, Saquon Barkley, he has 84 carries, 463 rushing yards. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. I believe he is the key for this Giants offense to move the football. I don't believe in Daniel Jones. I don't understand how Daniel Jones continues to get opportunities to start in the NFL. He's not a franchise quarterback like a Mahomes, like a Herbert, like a Burrow, like a Jackson, like a Allen. That's not who Daniel Jones is. He's below average at best for the season. He got 631 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 81.9 rating as a quarterback overall. He's not very good. And the Giants' skill position players are not very good either. I think the Packers take care of business in London. I think the Packers have the more complete football team. Even though the Packers are 3-1 and the offense is not playing to the level that we're accustomed to seeing, I believe that the Packers still have a dynamic offense because of their rushing attack with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. The strength of the Packers is their running game with their 2 running backs. They have a great offensive line with Josh Myers at center. They got David Bakhtiari back, the best offensive tackle in the NFL. They got Elton Jenkins. They got Josh Newman as well on that offensive line. So their ability to run the football effectively is the reason why the Packers are 3-1 right now. It's not because of Aaron Rodgers in the passing game. You look at their receivers so far this year. Romeo Doubs, he has 19 receptions for 184 receiving yards. Alan Lazard has 12 receptions for 174 receiving yards. Mr. Reliable and Randall Cobb, who's turning back the clock, he got 10 receptions for 150 receiving yards. Sammy Watkins, he's on IR. He got 6 receptions for 111 yards. Christian Watson has 6 receptions for 51 receiving yards. So that Packers that offense overall, their receivers are not playing at a high level yet. And you can tell that Aaron Rodgers is still trying to develop chemistry with those receivers on the Packers offense. So that's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. And that's why we didn't see the Packers blow out the Patriots. I watched that game start to finish Sunday. Patriots had a third-string quarterback against the Packers. And as a Packers fan, I'm used to a certain standard. And I am used to the Packers blowing out teams like the Patriots in previous years when I've watched them play. And that game was a nail-biter the entire 5 quarters overall. So it's going to take some time. I'm used to a certain standard as a Packers fan. But like I said on Tuesday's show, I have to lower my expectations for this Packers offense. We in week 5. Maybe by week 8, week 9, week 10 or 11, maybe by then the Packers offense will be hitting on all cylinders and Aaron Rodgers will be on the same page as his receivers. I expect Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, as the season goes along, to learn more about the system and get better in that Packers offense. And they got Robert Tonyan as well, a reliable tight end who Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball to in the passing game. I expect as the season goes along for that Packers passing game to start flowing at a higher level. But until then, it's the Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon show in Green Bay. I think the Packers take care of business against the Giants. I'm rolling with the Packers to beat the Giants in London. I'll go Packers 27. That's been the key number for the Packers this year. Giants 13. So I do believe the Packers will beat the Giants by 2 touchdowns. The Giants' weakness, which is their receivers, is the Packers' strength, which is their secondary. I don't know the status of Jair Alexander and Adrian Amos, but Jair Alexander, he's been dealing with a hamstring injury. Amos has a concussion. He left the matchup against the Patriots the other day. But if the Packers have their full arsenal in the secondary with Jair Alexander, with Rasul Douglas, with Eric Stokes, and then safety, they got Darnell Savage, they got Adrian Amos, I don't expect the Giants to put up many points in this game. And their only chance at being able to win this game is Saquon Barkley having a breakout game of his career. That's the only chance I give the Giants at winning this game. Saquon Barkley has to have the game of his life. That's the only chance I give him. Packers 27, Giants 13.